Alright, let's be honest. Have you ever heard someone say, "Oh, Muslims don't like dogs," and thought, wait, what? Because everywhere else, dogs are celebrated like furry little heroes. They're guide dogs, guard dogs, or just those cheeky family members who steal your slippers. So when you hear this rumor that Muslims aren't dog lovers, it feels a bit strange, doesn't it? Now, the truth is that it is not that simple. It is not a blanket "we hate dogs" situation. Far from it. The story is more like one of those family recipes where everyone has their own version, and some ingredients don't always mix. Religion, culture, and a good dose of practical concerns about hygiene all get thrown into the pot, and what comes out is complicated. So, where does this whole idea of dislike actually come from? Let's get into it. Number 1. Where the idea came from. The whole Muslims dislike dogs idea actually comes from a mix of religious teachings and how people interpret them. In Islam, there are certain hadiths, which are sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, that mention dogs. Some of these suggest that dogs are impure, especially their saliva, which led many people to believe that keeping a dog inside the house might not be the best idea. But the twist here is that those same texts also highlight how dogs have their place and can be really useful. To put this into better context, guard dogs, hunting dogs, and even sheep dogs are spoken about positively. It is like saying, yes, dogs are wonderful, but maybe not rolling around on the sofa with you straight after prayer. Over the years, this religious guidance blended with cultural habits, and suddenly, you get this big generalization that Muslims just don't like dogs, when in reality, it is more about boundaries and respect rather than dislike. Number 2. Culture plays a big role. Now, let's be real, culture can change the whole picture. In some Muslim communities, dogs are seen mostly as working animals. Think of them guarding farms, helping with hunting, or keeping flocks of sheep safe. People respect them for what they do, but they don't necessarily see them as pets who curl up at the foot of the bed. On the flip side, in other places, Muslims do keep dogs as companions. You'll find families who treat their dogs like furry members of the household, just with a few extra rules to keep things clean and respectful of religious practices. It really shows how location and upbringing matter. A Muslim family in rural Africa might see dogs very differently from a Muslim family in London. Same faith, but the culture around them shapes how they see man's best friend. Number 3. Cleanliness is a big deal. This is where things get interesting. In Islam, cleanliness is a huge part of daily life, from how you pray to how you prepare food. Now, dogs are lovely, but let's be honest, they can be a bit messy. Think muddy paws, drool on your trousers, or that rolled in something horrible smell we all know too well. Because of this, many Muslims prefer to keep dogs outside or limit where they go in the house. It's not about disliking dogs, it's just about staying clean for prayer and daily routines. Imagine trying to keep your prayer rug spotless when your Labrador has just dashed through a puddle and shaken mud everywhere. Not exactly ideal, is it? This doesn't mean Muslims avoid dogs altogether. It's more like setting boundaries, the way you wouldn't let your dog jump onto your freshly made bed. Clean space, happy owner, happy pup. Number 4. Guard dogs have a role. Now here's something you might not know. In Islam, dogs are actually allowed for certain roles, and guarding is one of them. Imagine living centuries ago in a village surrounded by farmland. You'd want something to keep an eye on your sheep or to protect your home at night. Enter the loyal guard dog. The Prophet Muhammad himself mentioned that dogs used for herding or guarding were permitted, which shows that it was never about banning dogs altogether. It was more about balance, purpose, and making sure their place in the household made sense. Even today, many Muslim families in rural areas keep dogs outside as protectors. Think of them like furry security guards who do not ask for wages, but definitely expect dinner. It is a practical role, and it highlights how dogs have always had a valued place in human life. Number 5. They can be hunting companions. In Islamic tradition, dogs trained for hunting are not just allowed, they are actually praised for their skill. Back in the day, hunting was not a sport but a way to put food on the table. A well-trained dog could help track, chase, and retrieve, making life a lot easier for families. The Qur'an itself mentions that animals caught by trained hunting dogs are considered lawful to eat. That little detail shows how deeply respected their role was. Imagine setting out into the wilderness with your trusted dog, knowing it will work alongside you to bring home dinner. Even now, in some parts of the world, hunting dogs are still used and appreciated for their instincts and loyalty. They were never just pets in this sense, but true partners in survival. Number 6. They can be used to keeping watch. One of the most respected roles dogs had in Islamic culture was that of the guardian. Think about it, villages and farms did not exactly have CCTV cameras or tall fences back then. What they had instead were loyal dogs who kept watch through the night. The Quran even gives a famous example of this in the story of the people of the cave. While the young men rested, their dog stood guard at the entrance, watching over them with unshakable loyalty. That image alone tells you how valued dogs were as protectors. It is not hard to picture, is it? A faithful dog lying by the doorway, ears twitching at every sound, ready to alert the family to danger. Beyond companionship, they provided safety and reassurance, which is a gift no one could take lightly. Number 7. Respect for boundaries. So this is where things often get mixed up. Some Muslims avoid keeping dogs inside their homes, and outsiders sometimes read that as dislike. In reality, it is about boundaries and religious guidance rather than hatred. Islamic tradition teaches that the saliva of dogs is considered impure for prayer, which is why many families prefer not to have them indoors where prayer takes place. But that does not mean Muslims dislike dogs themselves. It is more like saying, I love cake, but I will not eat it in the library. The cake is not the problem. The setting is. The same applies here. Dogs are still treated with kindness, fed, cared for, and respected, just with certain rules in place to keep spiritual practices intact. Number 8. Compassion above all. At the heart of Islam is the teaching that all creatures deserve compassion. There are famous stories of people being forgiven by God simply because they gave water to a thirsty dog. That is not the kind of story you hear about an animal people are meant to dislike. It shows that kindness to animals, including dogs, carries huge spiritual value. So while some Muslims may choose not to live with dogs in their homes, they are still encouraged to treat them with care. Disliking or mistreating them goes against the very principles of the faith. If anything, it proves that dogs are seen as part of God's creation, and compassion toward them is a way to live out one's beliefs. Number 9. Personal choice plays a role. It is also worth remembering that, beyond religious guidance, a lot comes down to personal preference. Just as some people love cats but are not keen on birds, some Muslims may not feel comfortable with dogs, while others are quite happy around them. Culture, upbringing, and individual experience all shape how someone feels. For example, a family that has always lived in a rural area may see dogs as loyal working companions, while another that has grown up in a city flat may not be used to them at all. It is less about dislike and more about what someone is familiar with. Religion gives the framework, but within that, people make choices that suit their lifestyle. Honestly, once you actually understand the background, the whole Muslims dislike dogs idea starts to sound a bit silly, doesn't it? It is about culture, history, and what role dogs play in daily life, never the blanket negativity people often assume. And if you are curious about flipping the perspective and looking at it from the dog side, you need to check out the video on the screen titled 10 Signs Your Dog Doesn't Fully Trust You. See you in the next one.